This is another episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fun episode of Stand-Up Comedy, host and MC, and we're doing another terrific comedy roundtable, and I've gone down to Southern California, a town called Acton, California, out in the desert, and we have some special people that are going to share their experiences in comedy. First and foremost, we have our host. He is a stand-up comic that used to work my club for years. He had fame and fortune as a stand-up comic, did a lot of road work. He pivoted and became a booking agent. He now owns and operates Entertainment Max. So if you ever need a new comic, use your Googler and go to Entertainment Max and find this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Barry Neal is in the house. Barry, thank you for joining us.
It's always good to see you again.
And Barry, as a booking agent, has connected me with two lovely young ladies that are talented stand-up comics, but much, much newer to the business. We have in the second position a very talented young lady, originally out of Chicago. She does stand-up comedy, been in the business about 6 years on the road, but she also has a website, and is it kind of a blog?
It's a web series, but
web series. It's kind of new to me, but it's called Dog Moms. That's so right. If you get a chance, Google Alyssa Poteet and Dog Moms. But anyway, she's in the house. Alyssa's here.
And the crowd goes wild. Thank you so much for having me.
And last but not least, another lovely young lady who's been in comedy a little bit less. She's a little newer, still about 5 years, but you may recognize her on the podcast from TV, where she's done a lot of acting, but she's also a terrific stand-up comic, originally out of the San Francisco Bay Area, Avra Friedman.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now, I have to apologize. I've been stumbling over Avra, and then I threw in Friedman and just threw me all off.
You connected the dot. It all worked out.
Well, I thank everybody for being here. And again, I want to make a special note that Barry is allowing me to host this in his lovely mountaintop villa that here in lovely Acton, California. So thank you, Barry. So I'm going to jump right into it. We're going to work our way around the table. And Barry, you've kind of been through this, so your answers can be a little short and succinct. By the way, Barry was interviewed on a one-on-one. If you like what you hear, be sure to go back in my library of podcasts and find Barry Neal. It was a great interview. Thank you for doing that. But let's start off. Alyssa, how did you start off? What made you decide to become a comic? How did you fall into the art form?
Oh, every time I do one of these podcasts, they ask this question, and it still somehow catches me off guard every single time. It feels like a million years ago. Man, I don't know. I feel like just there's kind of a similarity in a lot of stand-up stories where just kind of feeling like what you're doing isn't quite right, and always having like a love and appreciation for stand-up, and then having the light bulb go off in your head like, oh, wait, I could do that. And so I was in engineering school. USC gave me some scholarship money to go there, and that was like a whole different world. But it was just, it sounds so bratty to be like, well, engineering school was boring, and I just wanted to throw away my potential and tell jokes. But that's kind of what happened, I guess. And I've always loved comedy.
Did you just put yourself into an open mic to kind of test the whole thing out? Or obviously you weren't booked. You had to try it.
Yeah.
Where was your first gig?
I Googled open mics near me, and I was in like the South Central area where USC is.
Did you use the Googler, as Scott would say?
I did use the Googler. I liked that. I was like, is that a new social media platform I'm supposed to get on? Is that the next TikTok? Does he know something I don't?
Yeah, doubtful.
No, you look hip, Scott. You look like you could see something.
Did I mention
about
I'm
the
3 times
smartphone.
your age?
Wisdom is what they call it, I think, when we're being polite.
So you found an open mic and signed yourself up?
Yeah, and it was kind of a cool experience because it was an open mic in Boyle Heights from some guys that I'm still friends with to this day. Shout out to Siska Miranda, Paul Jones, Jenny Casillas, because they were all starting comedy around the same time as me, and they had a friend that ran a bar. They'd had a mic and a PA system, and we would just go to whatever
fun.
bar patrons were there, and just 20 minutes each, just so bad, like really bad. You know what I mean? As you can imagine.
Have to start off bad,
but just to have the space where there was like nothing to prove, and there was no like the competitive feel of open micers trying to make it. Like, it was just a bunch of friends just talking some shit into a mic for way longer than anyone should have ever given us a microphone for. And from there, just kind of, doing a little more on the Googler, trying to stalk people on shows where I'm like, I think I could be as funny as that idiot, and just trying to ask nicely.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Alyssa. Do you remember your first joke?
Ooh, I do. And it's actually weird. I don't do so many of my early jokes, but sometimes I do pull this one out.
Okay.
Are you going to make me tell it?
Yeah.
I knew. Oh, God.
It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. We've all been there.
Oh, God. It's not great. But the essence of the joke, and I'm not going to do it full out because now I feel so self-conscious and the pressure to kill right here on this prestigious podcast. Okay, the essence of the joke, as I'm talking about, also to be, it's a sexual joke. And
That's
Barry
okay.
is like my adopted father. And every time I go on the road with him, I am so embarrassed and disgusted with myself. But the joke is about how I think I finally figured out my type when it comes to men, and that's Chinese guys.
Okay.
It's because Chinese guys are the only guys that really know how to turn me on, because apparently they're making all of my vibrators. So...
I think that's a great concept.
Thank you. And I talk about how I named my red one Mao Zedong, because
Mao Zedong.
History is fun.
Yeah.
And,
by the way, your almost father is cringing a bit.
I know, he's dying inside. He's like, don't talk about your sex toys near me ever
Oh,
again.
that's hilarious. Well, Barry, we've gone over your whole career, but just to put it in perspective, you started in the mid 80s to late 80s. Where did you first hit a stage?
I did it in college. So it was 86, 87, something like that. I was at Northwestern, and it was, I don't even know if it's still there, Comedy Cottage. It's a little dump outside of Chicago. I don't think it's there anymore. And, my brother wanted us to get into doing comedy together and stuff. And so
that's okay.
Yeah, so we went to an open mic, and we saw some people, and we're like, we gotta be funnier than those fuckers. I know I'm funnier than that guy.
Right.
And you go up, and I think I was 17, 18, something like that. And it's just, and I'm doing horrible, just jokes that are like, it's cringing because it was like a Brady Bunch reference. Are you
going to make him tell his first joke?
Well, if he remembers
I do. Well, it was one of those things like, we talk about the Brady Bunch. It's like, looking back, it's like, Marcia called me a stinker, and everyone's like, "Oh, Marcia, you can't call your brother a stinker." And I'm like, she said stinker. It's like, she didn't say, "Hey, Greg's fucking me in the ass." So that I could see the parents having a problem with.
Yeah, right. But Marcia's a stinker, right?
Calling Marcia a stinker, that really should not be something that you.
But see, other than the fact that when you became a pro, you didn't do material like that.
No,
Being a newbie, that's a perfectly acceptable humor.
You're just as a new person, you're just craving laughs.
Right.
And now it's, now I teach comedy, and the thing I preach is don't worry about the laughs so much. I mean, you want to be funny, of course, but in the end, anyone can make people laugh. It's, can you leave an impression of who you are so they come back and see you again? And watching both of them, these are two acts that you just go, oh, they have something to say.
Right. And the key is writing. And I'm sure Barry's already given you ladies this advice, but if you can write clean, you're going to go much, much farther, have a much broader career, and you can pivot in any number of things from television writing to acting to corporate work, but you have to work clean. And Barry, who worked my club many, many times, was always clean, professional, great comedy, great relatable with the audience. But as my wife mentioned, as we were coming here, always a pro. He dressed in a suit and wore a tie on stage. And it was even unusual at the time, but it did make him stand out. And there were other acts doing it, but it did stand out because it wasn't everybody. A lot of people would just roll out of bed and, hey, I'm here to do my 20 minutes, right? So now we're with Avra. And you have been in the business about 5 years. You're the newest of the bunch here. How did you fall into stand-up as an art form?
Yeah, well, my first like memory of not getting into it, but it being on my mind was like when I was really young, my dad was like, "You're so funny, you should do stand-up." And I was like, I don't know what that is. Obviously. I'm like 8 years old, third grade, like not exposed to it. And also like my parents weren't into it, so it's not like something they would put on and I'd be like, "What's that? I want to do it." I like did not know what it is. And even it was so funny because the first time I ever did stand-up like on a show, like I did a show before I did an open mic because I just like no one told me things, so I just was like, whoa.
Jumped in.
Yeah. And I had never been to a stand-up show. Like I don't even understand how this happened to me. Like how am I here? Like we don't know. Here we are.
That's incredible. Now, do you remember, did you write for this first performance?
Yeah. So
your own stuff, you weren't borrowing or had any ideas?
The way I guess I like got into it or like chose to do it or whatever was because I was writing back when Facebook was in its Facebook
infancy.
Glory. Yeah. I was writing like Facebook statuses, essentially like tweeting, but on Facebook because that's where I had friends. Like my friend was like, "Make a Twitter," and I was like, 5 people are following me. Like this feels not worth it. So I just had like a Facebook where I did my Facebook statuses, and people would like comment, be like, "Oh my God, this is so funny. I'm sharing it with all my friends right now," or like, "Oh my God, like you should do stand up," and I was like, "Oh." Like, do I know how to do that? Like, okay. So then I just kind of like used all my like best like Facebook statuses and like wove it together and was like, how do I make this like
interesting.
a set?
So you kind of took, which was a new social media communication, and instead of doing something funny at a party or on stage and then sharing it on Facebook, you kind of went ass backwards and you go, well, these things people said were funny, so I'll try them on stage. Do you remember any of those first ones? That's interesting though. That's different.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sure I remember them. I mean, I have a lot of jokes about my name because as we already went through multiple times today, it's not an
Avra
easy one.
Friedman
Yes.
is not your,
Also,
Tom,
Avra,
Dick, or
like,
Harry.
It's just not a name. It's just like actually not a name. So my parents were having a moment. They went with it. It has been questionable throughout the years, but
How stoned were they?
Also, my siblings have normal names. It's just like they had a time.
Just you. So I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry I interrupted. Do you remember any of those early posts?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah, like I used to, people love the line, like, sometimes I sleep, like I'm very short and I talk about that a lot too. I'm like 5'2". And sometimes I sleep on my bed horizontally.
You can get away with it.
No reason. Yeah. That's just the one liner that comes to mind.
But no, that's fine. But see, that's also, and Barry, who teaches comedy, would agree with you that when you start writing, especially in the beginning, the simplest way to relate to people, because we're all people and we're all not that different, is to talk about yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's other short people, there's other people that think they have unique names or whatever. So that's a great way to get started. Well, congratulations, ladies. It sounds like you did the right choice, and you're exploring this new art form and turning it into a business. Now, in the first years, Alyssa, it's difficult to get stage time. Where did you find, you said you started in the Bay Area, but where did you really develop as a comic, and how did you find stage time?
Oh, well, I actually started in East Los Angeles, and then like shortly after starting here, through my college, I got accepted to this like work abroad program where you can they'll pay for your flights and your housing, but you work for free like a slave. And then I got to live in Hong Kong for like 4 months, and they actually have a small but mighty comedy scene out there, which is pretty cool because
that's very cool.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of expats. Like the comedy scene is like mostly in English, and since there's not, people were really enthusiastic about comedy and running shows, but there weren't a ton of comedians. Like, you go to the mics, you're working on jokes, and you could get a few shows. So I got some stuff under my belt there in an undersaturated market, so to speak. And then coming back here, the name of the game for me, honestly, was Facebook and Instagram stalking. I just like people that I saw at open mics that was like, I'm at least as funny as this asshole. I would just look at what flyers and what shows they were getting booked on, and I would just shamelessly message the host. And I didn't even realize a lot of these times like the hosts aren't even like the producer. I was probably like harassing people that were like, I can't even help you. But like through that,
Well, you
just
were
building
aggressive,
some inertia.
aggressive marketing, and instead of just winging it, you did some research by following other comics. I mean, as a producer, and I'm sure Barry would agree, you have to kind of do something different and unique to stand out and to get stage time. And I think when you did it with that approach, obviously it worked.
Yeah, and I mean, because I think a lot of it, with especially in a more saturated market like LA, there's a lot of comics to choose from. And at the end of the day, some of these lower level bar shows and just free shows, they're really willing to put people on, but sometimes the difference between who they're putting on and who they're not putting on is literally just like whose name is at the front of mind. So just by asking, it sometimes is just helps.
But everybody goes through the crucible of open mics and getting stage time anywhere you can, like you talked about, and it was a bar and you could get up and just goof around. I mean, that's training. Now, Barry, you're a very successful agent, and you book comics in fundraisers, private shows, casinos, and clubs all around the country. What advice do you give young comics as a teacher of comedy to get their, what would you call it, their feet wet in the industry, to kind of learn the trade? What do you recommend?
Well, as people who took the class, maybe they might have a better insight, but I think every week I emphasize, be professional. If you can't send me an email with your fucking name on the bottom.
Did I mention he used to be really clean?
Yeah, because it infuriates me. I literally get emails every day from, stand-up girl. I don't know who you are.
Stand-up girl? You've got
they don't use their
Don't have a
name.
better email address. That's just not a good one.
Yeah,
That's
very
yeah,
old
and I'm
weird.
like, I don't know who you are. And
That's just crazy.
And that's literally what I'll say in the class is like, have your name and your phone number, because we just picked up a couple new casinos and I have to book it quick. So
Right.
I'm just trying to go through emails and go through names. And if your phone number's on your email, great. You're the next one in line. If not, I'm not interested in trying to find out who's stand-up girl or
and what their phone number
what
is.
their phone number is.
But just go to TikTok and find me. It's like,
Yeah. They don't
it's so unprofessional.
It's unprofessional. And people will thrust. The other thing I would say is don't make your business my business in terms of, when I say send me a headshot, send me your promo. Oh, it's all on my website. Fuck you. I'm not looking at your website. Send it to me in a JPEG and I'm not interested in doing the work for you.
Yeah.
And the other thing I know you guys have heard me say a million times, I'll book a casino, in somewhere in Arizona, and they'll just go, how do I get there? I don't know, fucking hitchhike. I don't know. Figure it out. You take a flight, and then which airport? I don't care.
You agreed to this gig.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So they're not. We are dealing with, no offense to the young ladies, with a generation that don't take responsibility for their own existence, and they're used to things being handed to them or supplied or
I don't think that's
directed.
fair.
I agree. I'm going to push back on that.
I don't think that's true at all.
I'm an old guy. Come
you
on.
need a rocking chair and
Yeah.
a porch to yell at kids to get off your lawn, sir. Jesus.
I'm sorry. I was doing that yesterday.
It is literally just this. It's a lot of the older comics that are like, again, they just want to be fed the.
Well, see, that would piss me
Thank
off.
you for that, Barry. Thank you.
If you're an older comic, you should know at this point that it's a business. It's called show business.
These older men and their entitlement issues.
Well, there are questionable people in every generation. I don't think
Yep.
it's just the modern.
Exactly.
There you go. All right. All right. Wait a minute.
Test
Let's
of
give real.
time.
Good. You got it. You got it. All right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well,
But that's what I teach in a nutshell. That's my whole class is really about that. Is that learning? We do a lot of writing, and they're, by the way, these two are two of the best writers you're going to find. But the professionalism is, if you don't have it, not interested. I don't care how. I could name some names. I'm not going to do it here. But Scott, you and I could talk about some people who are really funny. Can't use them.
Oh, right. No, I definitely, as a club owner and as a producer, I certainly can relate to what you're saying, is that there's people that are really funny and you would think, man, if they just got their crap together, they could have gotten that golden ticket and had the next sitcom, but they were so disorganized or so interested in getting laid or getting drunk or getting stoned that they weren't paying attention to what was important. Where Avra, you come from a different direction. I mean, I think the Hong Kong story is fascinating. How did you find stage time? You said you put yourself into a show, which is unusual. Normally it's open mics or showcases or a comedy school. How did you build up and get stage time to develop?
I was in New York City, so obviously there are stages and times and, put them together. And I just like started writing, and I had told my friend that I was doing that, and she was like, oh, this is so weird, but I saw this thing on Craigslist about this like comedy showcase at Gotham, like looking for people to showcase. It's like a competition, the winner wins money
and
or
everybody,
whatever.
Gotham is a famous comedy club back east, and that's they were obviously looking for young talent.
Yeah. And she like sent me this Craigslist post, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll like email them, whatever. And then I like got on the show, and that was like legitimately just like the first time I'd ever done it. Like what a strange thing.
That's a great and lucky start.
Oh yeah, I remember. I also like I got to the show, and then whoever was running it like came back, and they're like, okay, everyone, like here's the rules, here's what we need to know. And they were like, we'll light you at 8. The light will be right there. And I was like, I don't know what a light is. Like,
Oh my God, dude.
I was like, what are they talking about? Because it was not only like I was like, okay, where is that? I didn't even know what I was looking for. Like a light bulb, like a lamp, like what was I looking for?
And it's always different. In our club, we
yeah.
had a red light that was right there, pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But the Comedy Store, famously, they shine a light on a photo.
Yeah.
And that's the light.
Yeah, this one, I think it was, I mean, if my memory serves me, it was a red light, but it was just like, I didn't even know what are you talking, like, they were like, there will be a light, it will be there, and I like had to like look around and be like, who looks like sane enough where like if I ask them, they're going to be like, yeah, the light's right there, help me and not be judgmental.
Well, you brought up something, because a lot of people don't know what the light means. So I was working with newbies.
Even still, dear Lord,
Yeah,
right?
and you hit the light and they go, oh, I got to go by. They're trying to be respectful,
sure.
right? And no, the light means, end it.
Wrap it up,
you got like 5 minutes or less. Wrap it up professionally. Do your best joke and get off with an applause or a laugh. But a lot of people don't know that in the beginning. Were you able to pass the Gotham City Club? Were you able to get some regular showcase nights?
It was just like, that was just a one night thing. I won second place. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, it was a competition. Wait. More applause. All right, that's enough.
So many. Oh, a quick one. Okay, a quickie. I'll take it. And then right after that, I was planning to move to LA anyways, because that was just like my plan after I graduated college. I went to school in New York, and then so I just was like, okay, cool, like that was a fun start, bye. And then I moved to LA, and I sort of started doing the same, like go to open mic, like more traditional, like go to.
Well, it sounds like it was planned success, but Barry will back me up on this. Back in the day, there was a lot of areas that were developing comedy, Seattle, San Francisco, Boston. However, I, as a producer, told anybody and everybody that would take advice that if you're serious about this industry, you pretty much have to be in New York or LA. There's a lot of places you can develop, but if you want to be seen and you want to take it to a certain career level, and other people have broken this rule, but generally New York or LA offer the opportunities, the stage time, and the people that might see you that could take your career to the next level. Barry, would you give similar advice? No. I see you could do your face.
Well, here's what I tell my students is that New York and LA is an invitation town. So if you're not invited, so to speak, you could live next to the Improv. Doesn't mean you're ever getting a spot at the Improv.
That's true.
And if you live in Chicago or Minneapolis, there's like so many clubs, especially when we were starting, you never had to leave. So when you're a big fish in Minneapolis, Iowa, that's when you come here, because all of a sudden you're going to get that showcase, because you get one shot at this,
right,
in front of the big kids. And if they see you as an open micer, it's hard to break that. So your first time showcasing in front of people, it should be, you're a headliner. Wow. Let's put them on TV. Let's hire them. So sometimes I say stay away from New York or LA if you can, and get better.
Right. I've known a lot of people that were already features and even beginning headliners in the Bay Area. San Francisco was a great place to do comedy. But when they would come to LA, there were nobodies and nobody would give them stage time. And we basically were starting over. But if you made that decision to come to LA early, it's going to give you a stronger foundation. Maybe it won't take 3 years to develop into a known act. It might only take a year. It might be a good analogy. I don't know.
Yeah. And one thing I tell people, and maybe this is not a indictment on young people, but some of my students, I'll even say, hey, I got something far away. And when I was starting out, I drove 2 hours to do an open mic for free.
Right.
And sometimes I'll get people going, oh, that's like 45 minutes from my house. I'm like, it's stage time in front of real people. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
To be
Also
fair,
in
what were
LA
gas prices then, though?
Things are changing.
But also, I find in LA, like, also everything's kind of far away, so that just
far.
becomes normal. People, like, I love when people outside of comedy be like, "Oh my God, you're getting paid to go there," and I'm like, "Oh, honey, I'm not getting paid." Oh my God, stop, dear Lord, who do you like I am?
Yeah. But it is all part of, and like any career, by the way, whether you're going to be an engineer or you're going to be a broadcaster, you're going to be a lawyer, you have to pay your dues. And a lot of people, especially in the 80s, Barry will back me up on this, comedy came on so strong in the mid 80s that people thought, well, if I could just do 2 or 3 minutes on stage, I'd get the Tonight Show and I'd get a sitcom. And that was so far from the truth.
Oh, yeah.
But that was the mindset. And people forget that, like any career, you have to work at it. So going back to Alyssa, you've now been on the road for a few years. You're still, in compared to an old guy like me, a new person in the industry. Any road or gig experiences that have been interesting, good or bad, that have maybe you learned something from?
Oh God, isn't every experience on the road an invaluable learning experience? Oh my gosh. I was just on the road with Barry in Colorado and it was super interesting. Like we had a 3-gig run. The second gig we did, oh gosh, it was so cute. They were so sweet. Shout out to them. They had the cutest bed and breakfast and they packed out their backyard and they have the little bar there. It was like super fun outdoor show. Just super great crowd. Had a great set. They loved me, not to brag, but oh God, and I loved them. And then literally the following night, another outdoor show, a little, like maybe an hour or two up the road in a different town. And we were in the back of this restaurant. And oh gosh, I went from with the same material, like really making people like, wow, we love her. This was so great show, to like some people just straight up complained. They did not like my set. They did not like it at all.
Really?
And it was just, is par for the course. And, it's a learning experience because it is, ultimately it falls on your shoulders. It is your job. You have to
it's one
work
of the
crowd
early
as
lessons.
best you can. And even if there's nothing you could have done and, maybe there were circumstantial things they just didn't like you, it's still like your responsibility and your burden to bear. You didn't do it.
It's a balance where you want to present your material your way and be an individual. At the same time, I've often taught entertainers that you have to play to the audience. And so if the audience,
stay in the pocket.
because you never know what you're going to get. You might get a room full of drunks. You might get a room full of people that, in suits and ties and paid for some expensive fundraiser. It might just be a normal comedy club, but they're there for comedy, which is different if they're there for music or for some other reason.
Truly.
And so every audience is a slight adjustment. And the people that really succeed in comedy, and Barry, you can agree or disagree, are the ones that can kind of be fluid and adjust to the show. Barry, what kind of advice do you give people going on the road?
Having gone on that road trip with Alyssa, she was great.
Oh, shucks. You don't need to say that because I'm right here.
And I'm actually going to be working with Avra soon, right?
Yeah.
In Ukaipa.
Nice.
I say this, it's like, look, you have to be who you are. You let the audience come to you. Now, having said that, you have to be able to maneuver a little bit, but the last thing you want to do is if an audience isn't getting what you're doing, to try to suck up and change and pivot and go, what do you want me to be? Do you want me to be dirty? I'll be dirty.
Oh, no, I would not recommend that.
They will hate you even more. So stay true to yourself. And Scott, you know this. I mean, you ran one of the best clubs in the country. Was it 200 some people?
Yeah.
There is no way 200 people saw my headline set and all loved it. Conversely, if I had a bad show, 200 people did not hate the show. So I'd rather go, you know what? I'm going to stay true to myself, stay clean, unlike this podcast that I'm doing. I'm going to stay true to who I am, what I'm talking about. And if 30 people love me and the rest are like indifferent, so be it. So I think sometimes you have to go, yeah, it wasn't a great show, but I did my best and I stayed true to who I am. You know, again, I make so many sports analogies, and I'm sure the girls hate this in my podcast, but it's like, if you're a football team and you run the ball, we're running the ball. So if they're stacking up against the run, yeah, I can pass a little bit, but our bread and butter is running, and we are not going to vary from that. So that's what I tell the comics. Stay true to who you are. Pivot a little bit, but...
Right, and you brought up a good point, because I made it sound like you want to adjust to the crowd. I didn't mean to the point of like not doing your act who you are and going dirty just because they're a bunch of drunks. Right. That would be the opposite of what I'd like. I like good, clean shows. And that's 85% of what I've booked over 20 years.
Have you ever seen this? And I know I brought it up in class again, but when I see a comic go, what do you guys want to talk about? I'm like, you are dead. You're done. You ask an audience what they want to talk about. That's like, you know.
Well, so I will put a caveat on that if you open that way, you're screwed. Yeah. If you get the audience to know who you are, you're a Dave Coulier or a Gary Shandling, and you've gotten the audience to understand where your comedy's coming from, and then they want to make it about the audience. And so they say, hey, by the way, is there anything that's, you know, that you want to talk about? Once you've established yourself as an entertainer, you can take a few more liberties.
Yeah, you have that credibility, and like someone like Jimmy Brogan or something who just does audience stuff. Although they're leading them that way, they have material. It's almost like, again, I bring up in class.
Oh, right.
With the questions I ask an audience, it's pointed questions. Yeah. So no matter what they say, I have a joke. So it looks improvised. Yeah. So someone like Jimmy Brogan or
that's Chandler. Professionalism, by the way, Barry. You're able to, like they say, don't ask a question you don't have an answer for, right?
I say that in class. I say, because I took law, and I said, you'll never see a good lawyer ask a question they don't know an answer to.
Already know the answer. Avra.
Avra, like avocado.
Because avocado. Avra.
That should be the title of this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Avra, not A. You've been in the business just 1 year shorter than Alyssa, but you've got different experiences. What have you found? Is there anything that's happened to you in comedy that was like so bad it taught you a lesson, or so good that it really gave you that confidence? I mean, what have you experienced?
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. Wow. Great question. Wow.
I may have, stumped
the
you.
panel.
Have we learned anything?
We learned? We've learned so much and nothing else. No, we've learned. I would say we've mostly learned so much. I mean, I really agree with like what Barry says, and I've heard that from so many people. Is it's like, it's basically like your goal is to have some people so obsessed with you. If that means everyone else hates you or doesn't like you or doesn't care or it doesn't matter, that's better than everyone else being like, oh yeah, she's good. Yeah, she's fine. Yeah, she's fine. Like you want your fans to be so your fans and so want you and so get you and so be
and not be concerned
you.
about the people that don't even fit your demographic.
Yeah. And again, it's better to have a few people at a 10 and everyone else at a 0 than just everyone at a 5. Like in terms of liking you. So
and there hasn't been any particular experience, good or bad, that you felt you learned something from.
I have learned so much, but
by the way, you could say no.
Oh yeah, no, it's like I almost have like 1,000 things to say, but like how do I fit them all into like one word / sentence? I have like standout moments and things, and I don't know. I think like I did a show very early on where like I got there and it was like in an art gallery and there was like 10 audience members and it was very echoey, and I was like, okay, well like this is gonna suck, but then I'll like go home and like eat a pint of ice cream. It's fine. Like it'll all be fine. I also don't eat pints of ice cream.
It's great experience,
but
by the way.
Yeah.
But see, that's what's good about this. Why I asked this.
Yeah.
Is in the podcast, which is meant to be entertainment. It's also become kind of a history of the art form, but there's people listening that either already are or want to be a comic.
Oh, yeah.
And so these are lessons for them. And so the lesson here is whether you're playing in a professional club to 200 people or in an echoey art gallery to 10 people, as Barry said, you have to be true to yourself, do your material, and hopefully connect with the people that are there, whether it's 10 or 200 or 10,000.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is I was like, okay, well, this is going to be awkward, but like, okay, we'll just like do it anyways. And that turned out to be like I like wish I had a recording of it. Like that felt like one of my best shows ever, and maybe still today. I don't know. It was just like, wow, this is me. Like, yes.
I feel that so hard. I love those shows.
Yeah.
Where it's just like there's nothing to lose. So there's just like not even a tinge of resistance because you're like, you can only make this vibe better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And people can just really surprise you in terms of, you're like, oh, like what's 10 people? But like 10 people that are so laser focused, that are happy to be there, that chose to be there, that weren't forced by their boyfriend,
They
like
love comedy.
that are into it. Yeah, like those
dude.
are the people. That's way better than 200 people that are like, fuck my life, shit
On their
hit the fan
phones.
yesterday.
And I'm going to make everybody
We're
around me
drunk.
miserable.
Yeah, we're crying. We hate you. We hate women. We hate girls. We hate people with brown hair. Like, whatever. Okay, no one does. Well, some people do. But anyways, just, you know.
Do you want a therapy about some of your ex-boyfriends that force you to do
Avra's
stuff?
going off a bit, but I want to go back a bit, and I was pointing at Barry, and I don't know if he caught it, but I was going to jump on you as a producer and as somebody that's taught comedy, and I think Barry would back me up on this. Everybody listening, you record every set.
Oh my
You
God.
never know
Regrets.
what's going to be said, what you're going to say, how you deal with a heckler. And even if you bomb, having that recording teaches you so much. So when you said, oh, I wish I had a recording on that, I'm going, oh, I wish you did too.
God. If I were to give advice to somebody right now, it's literally like what you said of like record every single second of everything. Like,
But it's easy now with our phones. It doesn't have to be a great recording.
The sad thing is, like, sometimes it's like easier, but you're like, I don't want to put this in the front row, like set up a tripod between three people, and then you like want to off yourself.
Yeah, and I was
constantly fighting with me about storage space and trying to negotiate new cloud memory. And I'm like, did I not just buy this iPhone that you made me buy because you sabotaged my software by self-ingest?
And just to be clear to everybody listening, the two young ladies here, and we're not talking about a TV quality recording.
Right.
And after you listen to it, you're delete it unless you get something special out of it. And then even then, I would take notes because writing something implants it in your brain more. But let's get back to the podcast in the next step. And what I was going to ask Alyssa was, you've done 6 years of comedy now. Is there anybody you worked with that you felt you were able to glean knowledge from or taught you something or you looked up to?
Oh my God. I have never been more humbled or privileged to have gotten the experience to work with Barry Neal, not just because he books me regularly.
You should tell everybody Barry's over here pointing at himself.
Yeah, right. No, I love Barry. He always does, and it's really sweet. I've been fortunate, Barry definitely included, that a lot of the headliners I've gotten to work with have been very patient and giving in terms of like, because I'm usually pretty hungry for feedback, and Barry just like also being, and also too like when people, all feedback is great feedback, but to get feedback from someone that has the mindset of educating people on comedy and knows how to teach. Like sometimes people like try to help someone learn something, but it's like you don't have the teaching bone in your body. You know what I'm saying? So like that's instrumentally helpful. And I also shout out to my friend Maya DeGiorgio. I feature for her a lot, and she is an absolute beast in entertainment, even beyond stand-up. Like she's a phenomenal actress, dancer, singer. Like she really was just born into a really crazy, prestigious family of live entertainers, and she just oozes it and breathes it, and just to be around it really does like. I
think that's awesome, and I'm going to break in and say that there's two great things about what you just shared, and one is for everybody in the audience that doesn't already know and hasn't heard me say it. I think it is harder for female comics, at least back in the day, than it is for male comics, just because of the nature of the business. But to be able to watch a professional comedian, and whether she shares anything verbally, just watching her and learning how she manipulates the crowd and uses her material and the verbiage she uses and controls the audience, which I think is more difficult for some people than others. I think that is such a great thing that you're able to do that. And that's going to make you, Alyssa, a better act because you're open to watching and learning, and not everybody is.
Absolutely. And just watching her, because a lot of her stuff is about being mixed race. And like, I have just watched this woman take a crowd of bumblefuck rednecks and talk to them about what it's like to be black in a room full of KKK people and make them lose their fucking minds laughing. And it is honestly like watching a wizard do magic. Like there's no other way to describe it.
Oh, that's a great analogy. Good,
Yeah,
good.
it's fantastic.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing that. And let's make it clear. What's her name?
Maya DeGiorgio. She actually just had a recent special come out on Amazon Prime, and then she's a new one that just aired at Tribeca.
Well, people, I would recommend going to the Googler and finding her work.
Yeah, right. I gotta plug her too because she gets me gigs too.
Yeah.
Let me give a quick shout out to Alyssa too.
Well, I was going to you next anyway.
Oh, okay, because we did the road together, and it was amazing. Because you're right, Scott. Some comics don't like taking, and so I never like to push my thoughts on unless people want to say, "Hey, what'd you think of the act?" So she'd come after each show, and the difference between when we started on Friday, and even though the Sunday show didn't go great, but some of the stuff, the advice, or just some of the stuff that we tweaked a little bit, she took. I mean, it's not my stuff; it's her stuff. But sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees because you have your own way of doing it, and if someone can come in and go, "Hey, what about this and this?" The difference in the set was amazing. I mean, she just in that small little sample of
Sometimes
I
it's
wish
the
you told
littlest
those people
thing.
that complained that, but yeah, thanks, Mary.
But it is true that a certain verbiage or pronunciating or taking what words you emphasize and what you don't can make so much difference. And that's why professional comics are, when they're taking some material, that lump of coal, and they're trying to create a diamond that they can use for the next 10 years on stage, you have to find the timing, the right words, what words to edit, which words to add. And that's all part of the art form. But let's give perspective, Barry. When you were back in the 80s and 90s as a stand-up, who did you see on stage that kind of shown you the way or that you felt you could pick off information from?
The people that I emulated maybe too closely in the very beginning were Seinfeld and Reiser and maybe Richard Lewis. But to watch them, Seinfeld to me is the most technically deft comic. He may not have been the funniest in terms of, wow, that was great, but the word choices, the inflection of his voice, you just go,
oh yeah,
it was genius. And Paul Reiser too had sort of that way of have that voice inflection and just his way of looking at things with, I don't know. Yeah, everything was, I don't know. That's it. He knew, and so that was just something. And then Richard Lewis was more manic, but those were the three that I thought, wow, if I could ever get that good, which I never did. But.
And one of the reasons that you were so successful is that you were watching other professionals. All three of the people you mentioned, two of them work for me, and I know Richard Lewis, of course. They're all a great example of professional entertainers that found their niche in connecting with an audience. And I've used this example several times, but everybody does maybe an airport joke, right? But Jerry is going to do it different than Paul Reiser, who's going to do it different than Barry Neal, right? You're putting your personal touch, your personal humor on it. And that's so important that you pick that up. Avra, almost went to avocado.
Support you.
Do it
Avra,
a different time every time.
Let's just call her Brittany.
I play along with Ashley.
let's just call the host an idiot. Avra, you've been on the road now for 5 years. You've been out there working different stages. What comics would you say that you've been able to learn something from that maybe helped you? Whether, by the way, there's a negative too. You could see somebody go dirty or go edgy or go attack mode and go, well, that didn't work. I don't want to do that. I mean, there's a negative you can learn from too. But are there comics out there that you've looked up to or learned something from?
Yeah, sure. I do a lot of crowd work and improvised material and very in the moment stuff. And I one of my comedian friends is a guy named David Rosenberg, and he does that so well and is so funny. And every show is a different show because he's always talking to different people, and it just his response to some kid in the third row with braces with his 60-year-old grandparents, and he just has such magic, and I love to watch him, but I also relate to that and love doing that kind of stuff too.
So David Rosenberg. So somebody else you can go to the Googler for and learn about. But so that's great. And what you like So our generation, that was Robin Williams. There was a few other people that could take Paula Poundstone always worked from the audience interaction. Just like Barry said, she knew where she was taking the audience, but she always made it sound like, so asking the audience and bringing them for the ride, and she knew where she was taking them, but they didn't, right?
Yeah.
And it seemed like improv. And Robin, who was the king of quick quips, and everybody thought it was improv, to be honest, anybody that really knew him well, is he had a Rolodex in his head of material, and his gift, his genius, was that whatever was happening in the audience or on stage, he was instantly able to find that in his Rolodex and make it funny.
Yeah.
And so it always came off as improv, and in the sense that it was always different every time. But it was, if you watch Robin several times on stage like I have, you found that he repeated stuff, because everybody does. That's how you get good.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. No, I also, I've had like, I guess probably years ago, but I would have comics tell me, like, I mean, we don't listen to all comics because sometimes, we maybe don't get the best advice. But I had a few people say the same thing to me, which is like, you're really funny when you mess up and try and get out of it or make a mistake. And I was like, oh my God, thank God, because I am definitely going to do that. I talk very fast. I'm like neurotic and not sane and like working on all those things to an extent, but also let's keep them for the brand. You know what I mean? But there are moments where, oh my God, I like lost my word or shoot, or that person didn't respond the way I want. And they were like, those are some of your best moments and you can't plan those and they're probably going to happen. So like, thank God they work.
And for the audience and for a comic, the panic is in your head.
Yeah.
The genius of stand-up comedy and where the acting comes in is that it's all, the panic is happening in your head, but what comes out of your mouth seems like a quick response to something in a totally different direction you weren't planning to go.
Yeah.
And that's all part of being a professional and being able to tap dance with whatever's happening on stage. Well, this has been such amazing experience having you young ladies and my good friend Barry here on the podcast. I wanted to share with the audience, this will be coming out later in the year for 2023, which seems like a long way away, but is there something, Alyssa, that you're looking forward to, or a goal that you'd like to achieve, let's say by the end of 23?
Oh gosh, wow! What is it? January 1st already? Oh goodness!
Oh my God!
I am tangentially related, not I guess directly stand-up related, but I am working on a hidden camera show that kind of dives into politics, a la Sacha Baron Cohen type situation, and we've been working really hard on it. It's in post-production now. We're wrapping up on it now, and just to really be able to push it out there, get some eyes on it, see if there's any interest in it, would be just, it would feel real good after just years of a labor of love trying to finish a project to get to that finish
Well, that sounds exciting. And what about Dog Moms? Is that going to be growing? Is that something that you're still enjoying and having fun with?
Yeah, I mean, Dog Moms is out. It's been hitting the festival circuit. We just got like a Best Web Series award at some festival recently. I guess I get the emails and I'm like, oh, that's fun. On to the other 500 things I'm doing at the same time. But Dog Moms is out there for people to enjoy. It's
but I think that's I'm backtrailing this a little bit, but the point is you have goals, you have projects you're working on and looking forward to, and there's a progression in your life and your career that stand-up is taking you to. I hate to put it out there so simply, but so many people, at least back in our day, Barry, you might agree, were just in it for that night or for that week. They weren't doing the business. They weren't thinking about their next gig. They weren't planning on, geez, if I did this, I could maybe get a sitcom or get the Tonight Show,
well, that's
right?
because you didn't have as many women in the scene back then.
Okay, touche. I think it's important that you have those aspirations, and it's really good. Avra, what are you planning or hoping to be doing in the next 2023 that you're excited about?
Yeah, I would love to do late night. That's been a big goal. I'd love to go on the road more now that like we're allowed to leave our homes. What a thrill! And just like wow, comedy. Thank God it still exists. Sort of for a sec we thought maybe no, but it's around.
Yeah.
It's here to stay.
Well, it's definitely, the industry took a big hit over the last couple of years, and I'm sure everybody remembers COVID. I think if there is a silver lining, for people to have 2 years away from being in the public, for getting out to seeing live shows like plays and stand-up comedy and stuff, has made the people now that are starting to leave their hovels so much more grateful and excited about being somewhere. I was just at the Magic Castle, and everybody was just meeting everybody. We're so happy to sharing this experience. We were making friends, and it was just that excitement of, yeah, it was good magic, and it's an amazing place, the Magic Castle. But look, we're all out together in public, and we're sharing an experience. And I think that's what makes stand-up comedy one of the best art forms, because unlike going to a movie or seeing a musician that does the same song over and over, stand-up comedy, even if the material is repeated, to that audience in that moment in time, it's a one and only. It's a shared experience. And that's really great. So, and you've put yourself in a good position, Avra, because being in LA and doing the stages around here, that's how you're going to be seen, and you have a shot at late night. So that's definitely in the cards for you. So congratulations. And that's a great goal, because once you start doing some of the talk shows and get some of the TV stuff under your belt, like you've already been doing some acting, but doing it in comedy kind of gives you that extra leg that the other actresses don't have. So Barry, is a booker and is a comedy teacher and is somebody that's got decades of experience in the industry. I know you probably have some plans or projects for 2023 you could share with the audience.
My co-manager, we have a management company, so we are looking for, we have a few clients right now. We are looking to just take on a select few more.
Wait a minute, everybody in the audience. If you want to get good booking management, get a hold of Entertainment Max and Barry Neal.
And make sure you're professional.
Yeah, send him your name and phone number.
Yeah.
You hear that, stand-up girl?
Great callback. But Barry, what are you doing? Other projects or your comedy school?
Yeah, well, I teach just. At this point, I teach, it sounds so stupid, but I really do like to give back. I mean, working with you when I was 20-something and learning so much at Laughs Unlimited and just some of the other clubs, I'm at the phase of my life where I like working with the young comics who are serious about their craft. So I do like the teaching aspect, because in a class of 6 or 8, I'll get 1 or 2 who I'm like, they have a chance.
Can I just say real quick, can I plug Barry's class? Because it's awkward if he plugs his own class.
Oh,
but
sure.
Can I will freaking say
I'll
that
join.
In all these scam artists, stand-up comedy teachers who can't do what Barry Neal can do on stage, because by God was I like watching him headline because I've never seen you headline until we went on the road together. And I was just like jaw on the fucking ground. And like how refreshing it was to take a class, from someone who just dumped so much business and tangible and practical applicable knowledge, but then also from the perspective of, I don't want you to take my class again. I don't want you to give me your money again and try to scam you because for whatever reason, no, the point of this is actual tangible knowledge you can go on and take and use. And it's so rare in this business, and you can find good acting schools, but to find good stand-up teachers is just a dime a dozen. So if you're listening,
well, the bad ones are a dime a dozen.
But that is the freaking truth.
Well, yeah, Avra.
Oh yes. Well,
take it.
Second the plugging. I also think I had never seen another class advertised that was, a lot of people have stand-up classes that are like, here's how to write a joke, wear a dress on stage and do jokes, which also maybe don't wear a dress if it's not your brand. Again, be you, only you, says Barry. But also to have a class where Barry teaches the business and how to be a working comic, not how to write a joke.
Well, see, that's unique in itself. He's including the business side, which kudos.
It's how to be a comic, not how to do a comedy thing, how to be a comic. And I learned so much. And also what you said, giving back in terms of, he's if you are good, I will make good things happen for you as a result. And already seen that happen for myself and other people so many times. So thank the Lord / the Lord is Barry. So
Yeah, and
Well,
I
Barry,
Yeah, we have a reality show, and so we're working with a top club in LA that I can't expose right now, and also a top talent that I know that I'll tell you after the podcast because it's a what if.
right.
But it's basically it's a reality show based on young comics in a house, almost like Vanderpump Rules, following their lives and following them in their stand-up career. So,
Oh, cool.
it's a
Well, that would be cool. And what do you call your comedy course?
Barry Neal stand-up comedy.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
Barry
yeah.
Neal stand-up comedy. Well, say
it
short and
markets
simple.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Entertainment Max is the booking agency that you're running. And so everybody out there, reach out. Barry Neal is not only a very experienced and successful headliner stand-up comic, but he's pivoted and is now a terrific booking agent and a mentor to a lot of young comics with his comedy course. So be sure to do that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has just been so much fun. I want to thank my guest, Allyssa Poteet.
Oh, finally, you got my name wrong. So now we're even. I was feeling left out this whole time.
I still would say we're not even, but it's fine.
Just let the record show.
Avra Friedman and Barry Neal. Thank you so much for joining me. Did you guys have fun?
It was
So
so
much
fun.
fun.
Great
We'll
seeing
do it
you
again.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for this special podcast. And stay tuned next Sunday, another great show. Thanks for listening. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.